Hello, good evening, Matilde. How are you? How do you feel today?
Hello. I'm good. I'm good, thank you.
Great, that's great to know. So let's start, please, with today's class. We're going to keep practicing, all right, what we were doing yesterday. And again, we're going to just see in a very superficial and shallow way the last topic that we have to cover, that is articles. And as that's going to be very simple, again, we're going to get to practice some details for the TOEFL or general practice for writing. Okay, so let's start please with these last elements that we got. A12, no, I'm wrong. A7, okay, this is the one. So again, this is just to see if we have all the ideas, mainly perhaps the last part for the, if we have that, let me check. Yes, we have some elements for the article the that can be useful, but the rest of it is very simple. So, when do you have to use articles, Matilde? What do you say? We have articles for singular words, for plural. When do you use it? When you don't use it? What do you know about those rules?
Okay, let me see. Um, well, for example, in the case of the and of, there's a difference. If I say, let's go to the dentist, or let's go to a dentist, if I say the, it's probably because I already know which dentist I'm going. It's not general, let's say. That's one that I can remember. Also with yes, yeah, it has to be singular. Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, when do you decide, or how do you decide, and what you said is correct, when do you decide, I mean, the usage of a or an with an n? What is the criteria
Okay.
that we follow for that?
Yeah, we have to use an N if it's before a vowel, so it doesn't have. So it's an A if it's a consonant, the next word.
Mhm.
So the sound it wouldn't sound like weird. So yeah, and
Okay.
for a vowel if it's right next to the A.
All right, good. Now, one question about that. Do we have, or do we need to have a written vowel over there, or do we pay attention to the phonetics? I mean, to how it sounds. What do you say? Which one is the criteria over there? The written part or the phonetics?
I mean, also the phonetics, because that's also with H. I mean, it's mute, so the sound, even though it's a consonant, it's better to use N for this. Yeah, for the sound, for how it sounds.
Okay, good, good. And the last one, because again, that's going to be the entire thing, but we're going to see some little details. What about plural? We know that with plural, perhaps we don't need to use an article, but when do you use an article with plural and when you don't use it? What do you say?
I mean, if it's an A, it has to be singular, but for it's, I mean, it could be used, yeah, in wider. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you could use the in plural, right? But not A.
Yes, that's correct. So it would be mainly deciding when to use the and when not to use it. So for example, when do you say the people and when you say only people? What is the criteria there? What do you say?
Well, I would say, I mean, if I say just people, I'm talking in general. But if I use the, it's maybe a group that I already
Yes,
know,
yes.
or I could, yeah, or I could see even.
Yeah. That's great criteria. And actually, yes, that's the main criteria. The is for people that you know, right? And you're going to mention a specific group of people, right? The people from the party, right, were
Mm.
in yesterday's party, right? But you can say people, right? People are bad or people are good to describe, right? All people around the world. So yes, okay. So if you have that, that's it. So we're only going to pay attention. Perhaps this is going to be fast. The last part is going to be specific ways to use, not ways, specific situations in which we use the as part of rules, but very simple one. So let's go there. We know we have definite and indefinite articles, right? The only definite one is the one you mentioned, the, right? And indefinite, or an, or you can simply avoid the usage of an article if it's plural, right? So definite, the, for one thing that you know, or you mentioned before, as you said. Okay, so are you going to the party this weekend? Only we mentioned that party before, or if you know that that person also knows about that party, right? Very simple. And we know that we can use definite articles, or well, the definite article that we have with singular, plural, or uncountable nouns. All right. Then the indefinite, this is mainly for singular, but the indefinite article for plural is no article, right? That's going to be indefinite for plural. We don't use article. But if we talk about articles, we can only mention the ones for singular, right? A doctor, an alligator. And this is what we were talking. I would like to read this part with you, please, because it's related to, as you said, it's sometimes related to the sounds that it can have. And actually the main criteria, sorry, it is going to be the sound, not the written word, because in the written part, you can have a vowel, but perhaps the vowel has a different way of being pronounced that is not going to have a vowel sound. So we don't apply this rule. So let's read this one, please. Here you have an example with the H that you said.
Okay. There are a few exceptions to the general rule of using a before words that start with consonants and n before words that begin with vowels. The first letter of the word honor, for example, is a consonant, but it's unpronounced. In spite of its spelling, the word honor begins with a vowel sound. Therefore, we use n.
Yes, that's correct, man. And sometimes you know that the H has a sound like hospital, right? So it is going to be different. So it depends on the sound. Here we have some examples. Let's read these examples, please, plus the article that we have there.
Okay. An honest man, a United States senator, a UK company, a university, an LCD screen, an HR department.
Good, right? So here we see the opposite, right? We have consonant, consonant, vowel, 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 consonant, 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 right? It shouldn't happen, but it is happening here because of the sounds that these words have, right? L, that's like a vowel, so we take this as a vowel, even though this is written right as a consonant. The same here, right? H, that's a vowel sound. So we say an H, right? So again, it's what you were saying, just
Mhm.
putting more attention again in the sound, mainly sound, because it can be written with the vowel or consonants, but it is not going to determine if the article is going to be either an A or an A, right? So let's just have that in mind. And the last part, plus articles or adjectives, it's the same. A very important meeting, a small gift. So you have to pay attention to the adjective or to the adverb that is next to the article, not to the word afterwards. Now, this is the part I wanted to see with you. We have some rules to use the. And let me see, these are only two, three. Yes. So let's read these last three slides, please, Matilde. Let's start with
Okay.
these four elements here.
Okay. Rivers, mountain range, seas, oceans, and geographic areas all use the. For example, the Thames, the Alps, the Atlantic Ocean, the Middle East. Unique things have the, for example, the sun, the moon. Musical instruments use the. She plays the piano. Sports don't have an article. He plays football.
Thank you very much. Right. So these are rules. Perhaps it's obvious because sometimes this the is part of the name that these places have, but it's following the same idea of there being something definite or unique. Let's go to the next part. Let's continue here, please.
Okay. Illness don't have an article. He's got appendicitis, but we say a cold and a headache. Jobs use I am a teacher. Countries, we don't use an a if the country is singular. He lives in England. But if the country's name has a plural meaning, we use the People's Republic of China. The Netherlands, the United States of America. Continents, towns, and streets don't have an article. Africa, New York, Church Street.
All right, thank you. And let's go to the last part. This is the last one, please.
Okay, theaters, cinemas, and hotels have the Odeon, the Almira, the Hilton. Abbreviations use the UN, the USA, the IMF. We use the before classes of people, the rich, the poor, the British.
All right, there you go. Okay, right. So perhaps most of them are kind of obvious, or we know that because of the context or how we've been using English, right? But it's interesting or important at least to know some of these rules. I would say the countries is obvious, but many people omit the use of the. And even if you, right, use the name the United States of America as an acronym, we have to use it also with the, right? Even if it's not plural, it has to be just because we are using the acronym, and that's right the reason that we need to use this article. But that's it. Also, this is perhaps something not that common. Classes of people: the rich, the poor, the British. But again, it's just to know. So to me, again, that's everything I wanted to show you before we can go practicing. So I don't know if you have questions or comments before going to this practice for writing. Matilde, let me know, please.
No, I don't think so. It's okay.
All right, so let's go over there, please. We are going to start with the one that I told you yesterday and I showed you. It was this one. So I believe that you can, let me first go over there. Um, or was it? I don't remember where it was. I think it was here. Yes, this is the one. Okay, so I'm making this bigger. So do you have the option to annotate here? Do you have that tool for you as a participant? Let me know, please.
I should. Let me see.
Yes, it should be activated for you as well.
Hmm. I cannot find it.
Perhaps if you go to more, because I don't remember how you say it if you are not the host.
No, and more it's for stopping the video. In
Or could it be?
video,
Let me
not
see.
here.
Now again, we're going to do it in a different way, but I wanted to do that in order not to see the mistakes over here. Mm, okay, now. All right, I made a change, but I don't know if that's going to help. I don't know. Let's try to see once again. If not, again, we're going to just go to the document itself and we're going to use a Google Docs. Okay, I'm going to be opening this in the meantime. All right, so we're going to use this one over here. I don't know where it is supposed to be, but I'm sharing the link.
Okay.
All right, so it should be, it is in the chat. Let's go over there, please. I'm sharing this again. I think it's loading. All right. So again, let's try not to pay attention, right, to all those details because we have not only not punctuation marks, but we have many things that we have to change here. The idea is that we try to identify those things. I would like to start with introduction, just introduction. Take a look at that, please, or read it. And first, only pay attention to the punctuation marks. All right, let's have a couple of minutes and add the punctuation marks that you believe we need to add over there. Okay, first only that. I don't know if you have questions about it, so I can give you a couple of minutes.
So I start with this, it's better to have a sentence. Well,
yeah, it can be that one, or you can skip to the introduction directly, but you can pay attention to both of them. If you believe that you need to use punctuation marks in any part or part of those sentences, you have to do it. All right, so let's do it, please. And as you do it, I believe it is going to be better. You can also use, no, add it, please. Just like that, directly to the document. It's going to be better.
Okay.
I'm going to start with the timer. We check in a couple of minutes.
Okay.
right? And also, if you believe that because of the changes over there, you can use capital letter or the opposite,
Okay.
you can also make that change.
Okay.
Okay, so I believe you have it there. No, continue, please.
Okay. I continue with the next paragraph.
No, not yet. Let's first take a
Okay.
look at the introduction. All right, so let's
Okay.
do it. Let's see how it went. And again, there are many ways to, all right, correct those little mistakes for punctuation and many things that we can do. So
Mhm.
in the first part, all right, for example, you have this infinitive. Again, we're not checking that one, but I'm going to take advantage to see all the details here. And that's what we're going to do also in the next part. All right, so for
Okay.
example,
Can
infinitive.
we zoom it a little bit,
Oh, yes,
please?
of course. Let me also
Thank
do it over here. We're going to do it directly here. Give me a second. No, why is it not working? As I did it before. Just okay. Now it is working.
you.
All right. So infinitive is good to use here. And again, I'm going to explain just this one that it was not something that you had to do. But the correction is because it's supposedly it is better to use gerund instead of infinitive to start an idea. But actually, the infinitive is so formal that it's weird, all right, using that as the first part of the subject. But it is valid. But it is up to you. If you want to avoid this type of possible observations, you can use, for example, here, gerund. All right, but again, that's something extra. I wanted to clarify why we have that one over there. But let's go to the first punctuation mark. So we're going to identify parts of the sentence. That's also going to be very important. So if I ask you, you decided to set the period over here, right? So it means that this is a sentence. And it
Yeah.
can be a simple sentence, a compound sentence, or a complex sentence. So which one do you say it is? Simple, compound, or complex?
Um, complex.
Yes, it is complex, right? But again, we have to be sure that's what we're practicing here because we didn't learn that one. So why do you believe it is complex? What makes you say that? Or you don't know between compound and complex?
Um, when I was trying to yeah, understand this part, I mean this sentence, it was a comma didn't fit because it was like a continuous idea. So it's not I mean it's not a single sentence separating some ideas. So
Good.
yeah, that.
Yes, and you follow the right, well, let's say, not a prediction, but what you were thinking, it was correct. You don't need commas here, right? You don't need any commas unless you consider that this idea with when is something extra, but it's not necessary if when is in the middle and the first part is the first clause for when. So yes, it is a complex sentence, and you know that when you have subordinated conjunctions in the middle, remember these subordinated conjunctions can be when, while, since, because, all right, those words that don't need a comma when they are in the middle of your two ideas. And even though it's one sentence, this one sentence is compound of, all right, or composed of two complete ideas that we call two clauses, right? So the first complete idea is here to have broad knowledge of many academic subjects. this is the subject, right? All of that is one subject. Allows, that's going to be the verb, and the rest of it is just complement, right? So that's one complete idea. Then the need, this is subject, then this is the verb, and this is, well, this is the verb in passive voice, right? And that's it. And here, and actually, yes, I didn't pay attention to this last part. Here we have to do something because I didn't say this one. That's enough, right? So what do you need for something to be a complete sentence? You need a subject and a verb, right? The complement is always optional. So in this case, we have that. We have here subject, verb, complement. Here we have subject, verb. That's it. Or you can take this passive voice as the complement, but it's also part of the verb. And here, as we have and we have it, right? Even though you are talking about the same, again, this is not obligatory, but if you want to be sure that it is going to be good every time that you use a comma, my piece of advice is using a comma every time you see a fanboy and you see one more time subject, verb, complement, right? Because here, once again, even though it represents the same idea, the need to solve money or the previous idea, it is still a new and complete sentence. All right, so you have that one, the verb, and the complement, right? So because of this, actually, this comma can or cannot be used. In this case, it's optional just because you're repeating the subject in a different way. So that's it. So it is good so far. But again, it's important to recognize that then this is for sure. You don't have to be doubtful. It is a complex sentence, and you have an extra sentence that is adding something about it, but it is also a complete sentence. But we are not using comma only because it is about a subject that we mentioned before, right? So good. And then here you have furthermore. That's perfect. This is a transitional word, right? Let's use it's okay. Then this wide variety of information, then that's again the subject, makes, right? That's again the verb, then a person grow intellectually and professionally accordingly. Now, we're going to see if this accordingly belongs or not to this. So, what is the meaning of accordingly? When do you use accordingly? Well, you have different two main usages. What do you say? What is the meaning of accordingly? And when is or when do you have the best situations in which you use this adverb? What do you say?
When it relates to something that it has said before, or it's like, yeah, relating something I've demonstrated in the writing.
Yes.
According to that. Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes. According, just as an adverb or as a verb, it related or it's used, right, to mention someone or something, right, in a certain way, according to you, according to that article. Then accordingly, yes, it's also used to create a connection between two things that you mentioned, right? But here, I would say that there's one thing that is missing. To use accordingly, you need at least two groups of objects. And these two groups of objects have to mention their characteristics separately. All right, and when they are separated, if you set accordingly at the end, you are saying that the first object that you mentioned goes with the first characteristic that you mentioned, and the second object that you mentioned goes with the second characteristic that you mentioned. All right, so to make that here, you will need to say something like, I don't know, right? Bolivia and Brazil have, let me find characteristics. What can you say about Bolivia and Brazil? And tell me one characteristic of one of those countries, Matilde. What could it be?
For both, or one characteristic for each one of them?
One for each. One for each. What could it be?
Bolivia has
or the population. Do you know about the population of Brazil? We can do some research, but do you know something about it?
yeah.
I think it's
I
way,
think
way big.
I know in Sao Paulo it's 12 million.
All
And
right.
yeah,
Okay, let's see.
I think it's even. I mean, just the city, and if you add the cities around, it's even more.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yes, you said just
Yeah.
the city, right? Sao Paulo is
Yeah.
like Bolivia in terms of
Yeah.
population. So 214. Okay, so we can say then these two groups, Bolivia and right Brazil, have a population of, I don't know, Bolivia it's 12 now.
Yeah. Well, we need a census.
Okay, let me
Yeah,
check.
it's 11 million in the last census, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, well, let's say 2021. I don't know where they are getting this information from, but let's say 12. Okay, so Bolivia and Brazil have a population of 12 million and 214 million people, right? And in that part, we can say accordingly, right? At the end. Why? Because if I'm saying accordingly at the end, I'm saying that the two data that I'm showing is correlated, right, in that order, right? And it cannot change. It has to be in that order. The first element that I mentioned about that one has to be the first characteristic that is part of the complement. All right. So I don't know if that makes sense, but if we follow that logic here, we cannot use accordingly because we are not correlating these characteristics of intellectually and professionally with two things before. All right. So that we can say accordingly, and we can create that connection. That's why we can say that this accordingly then must be part of the next one. All right, just because of that, because we need another group to compare and to create that correlation. But here we have just this wide variety of information makes a person grow intellectually and professionally. But that's it. Those are two characteristics for the same person,
Yeah.
right? But you don't need to say accordingly because you would need two different people, all right, to say that. So this must be part of the next element. And as this is a complete sentence by itself, we can use period or semicolon. All right, it means that this adverb is now an adverb for the next one. It means that now this adverb is a transition word. All right, it is a transition word. So accordingly as a transition word, what is the meaning of accordingly as transition? What do you say?
Like to connect what I've said before.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. And as this is the beginning of your new idea, you're saying that accordingly related to what I said before, or as a consequence of what I said before, or as a result, right? It is better to have broad knowledge of many academic subjects. All right, and just because of that. Okay, so good. Just that one. I don't know if you have questions or comments about this first part, because we're going to go now to the next one that is longer, but this is the logic. We're not going to be doing this thing that I've been doing, all right, underlining, but just using periods. And if you can, at least not dividing the sentence like in subject, verb, complement, but try to use colors like with this highlighting, all right? Try to highlight complete sentences that you find so that we know also why we have the periods and why we are using those details. So let me know please if you have questions so that I can give you the time to work with this. It was 2 minutes. Now this is going to be 4 minutes more or less. But if you finish before, you just let me know. So do you have questions?
No, I don't think so.
All right, so let's work on the first body paragraph, please. And we check in 4 minutes. Okay. And here also remember, if you see other details that you can correct, you can also do it.
Okay.
All right, so we have 5 minutes. Let's take a look at what you got. And we're going to see how we can, again, there are many ways to solve the lack of punctuation. We can add, actually, it would be enough, of course, besides the other mistakes that we have. But in terms of the paragraph, just by adding some punctuation and capital letters, we can solve it. But let's see other options as well. So, okay, let's begin. You have first, yes, this is introductory phrase, right? It is undeniable. We're going to see if we have that. That everybody needs to acquire, yes. So, over here, it's the introduction for a paragraph, and it's just the two of them I'm going to mark. To acquire a minimum amount of knowledge regarding general academic subjects. Now, here you have, yes, it can be a period, but you need to look then for a way to replace the word for. So what do you think it is, or it was the function of for in this case? We needed a punctuation mark, but we can use for with a different punctuation mark. Or we can use period, but we need then to replace for with another transitional word or phrase that gives the same idea that for was giving. What do you say?
And now I'm thinking that maybe for it was put to use like because instead of.
Yes, in this case, that was the one.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
two possible things, right? You can replace for with because, and you don't need punctuation mark, right? So you can say needs to acquire a minimum amount of knowledge regarding general academic subjects because society demands us to be ready when facing a new problem or even daily life situations, right? So if you do that, actually, this entire thing up to this part, it is going to be one sentence. And if you use for, let's use for. So what is the name of the sentence when you have a comma and a fanboy? What do you say? Is it simple, compound, or complex with that?
This will be compound.
Compound, exactly. And look, if you analyze, again, let's analyze also the second part, but first let's use, I don't see the colors. Let's do it for me, please, because I cannot find it here. Let's mark that just with one color up to this point, situations.
That part?
All right. Yes, is it the one? Well, let's make it the same color as this one, because all of this is going to be just one sentence. Yes, I think that one. Okay, good. There you go. Thank you. Now, it means, right, you have one sentence, but remember that a sentence can have two complete ideas because it can be compound. In this case, this is compound. Here you have society. This is the subject, and the month that, sorry, that is the verb. And the rest of it is complement, right? So it means that it's done. Now, how do we know that here? Yes, we need a punctuation mark, but remember, to use a comma, we need to think of possibilities. First, we can only use a comma to divide complete ideas if it's a fanboy, right? And that, or, so, nor. Or if you are actually not dividing complete ideas, and this is just a clarification. But to be a clarification, it has to be a phrase. And what is a phrase? A phrase is an incomplete idea. All right, it's an incomplete idea that is going to give you something extra about the previous element, or it's also an interrupter. And an interrupter also, most of the cases, is going to be a clause that doesn't have a second part, or a phrase that is also incomplete. But again, in general, you can say that the commas work only to divide complete ideas when you have a coordinating conjunction or a fanboy. That's why here we cannot use a comma. Why? Because as a matter of fact, it's introducing, if you realize, another set of sentences. And you can know that actually, as a matter of fact, it's going to be used in most of the cases as either an interrupter in the middle or as an introductory phrase at the beginning, and that's going to be, it means, a transitional word, right? So it means that it's going to connect two different ideas. All right, but of course, not in the sense that they are different and they are not related, in the sense that this one is going to give a new idea about the previous one that you mentioned. Okay, so here we would need either a period or a semicolon. It's up to you. Okay, again, how do you decide? If you believe that the connection is very strong, use a semicolon. If you don't see that connection in that way, you will use a period, but they can still have a connection. All right, so let's use, because later on we're not going to have things. Let's see, we're going to use a period. We use that one. Now, what else do we need here? We are going to need
a comma, yeah, after a fact, yeah.
Exactly, right? So this is going to be a transitional word. Now we have the beginning of this new idea, right? As a matter of fact, also this is something that doesn't happen in Spanish. If you want to say, for example, you have to start a new idea. All right. For example, is a transitional word, and for example, has to be after a semicolon and after a period. All right. And here, as a matter of fact, it works in the category of examples or facts or illustrations. And that's why also that's another reason why we need a new idea over here. All right. So as a matter of fact, people who have developed the skills in various fields of study and have acquired knowledge in many subjects, all of that is just the subject. Okay, that's not a sentence, that's just one subject, like Luis. And how do we know that? Because it is never complete. Because it says, and also a very interesting way to know that is that you have an adjective here. So all of this is just one big adjective for the word people. Okay, so what people are you talking about? I'm talking about people who have developed skills in various fields of study and have acquired knowledge in many subjects. Okay, I'm talking about that group of people. So it's only one subject. Okay, and again, the main thing that you have to notice there is who. Okay, if you have who, which, or whose, it is very possible that it is just an adjective, a very big adjective. Okay, and this is called an adjective clause. So when you have a very big subject like that, we cannot divide that from the verb. Okay, we cannot use a comma to divide it from the verb. So it has to be next to the verb. That it is going to be a. Exactly. And the rest of it seems to be the complement. Let's see. More successful when solving a problem, right? Due to the fact that they can think of, yes, due to the fact doesn't need a comma if it's in the middle. And here it is in the middle of this idea, right? So that they can think of many possible solutions by themselves and from different perspectives, right? So yes, all of this now, again, I was not marking that, but then this is the complement. Right? So it's a very big sentence with one big subject and one big complement. But if you organize the ideas where they are supposed to be, you don't use commas. All right, like in this case. And then good, I believe we're starting very good here, according to apocryphal hearsay focusing. This is correct. It is going to be on, right? It's not needed. On one specific subject creates a boundary between that person and a huge amount of other possible perspectives that are not taken into account. Good. And it is, and it, sorry, and it for sure. Now this is again your decision. If you believe you can add, sorry, my keyword. You can add commas. But that's up to you. If you want to put emphasis on the idea that this and it for sure limits enormously, that is going to be an interrupter. But it is up to you. Okay, it's not obligatory. Then enormously the problem solving skills that each individual and then here possesses. All right, so good. So there you go. Here it means that you have, it is a big paragraph, but you only have 3 sentences. All right, no, actually, yes, 3 sentences in this entire part. So I don't know if you have questions about this one. Perhaps we have time, not for the next paragraph, it's short, for the conclusion. We're also going to work on the conclusion, but let me know, please, if you have questions about these details.
No, I think it's clear. Yeah, it's clear now.
Good. So let's go. This one is going to be perhaps for tomorrow. Let's go to the conclusion. All right, let's do the same. Okay. All right, when you're ready, let me know, please.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay, good. So let's take a look at this one then. Some review, feedback, and that's it. Good, right? So we have the introductory phrase. We're going to see, I see, all right, in general, there's only one detail that we're going to see as a correction or a recommendation, because it's a very, all right, it seems little word, but it has a very strong meaning. Okay, so it's of paramount importance to be aware of these facts because it'll help, right? Because we don't need commas, anything. It'll help people in general. So here, this is what I can say that it's optional, all right? But in general, it works over there without commas, or you can set with the commas if you believe that this is clarification. But actually, that depends on the, again, meaning or the sense that you want to give to those words. It's not something that we need, and be able to solve problems in an easier way. Plus, it is so beneficial. Now, this is the one I was talking about. This word, even though, all right, it's just like that, and it's very similar to the fanboys, it is not a fanboy. It means that we are not going to use plus with comma. All right, plus is going to be used, and it's in the same category as also and as besides. And what are those? Those are transitional words. And for those, you need the same thing that you need for however, therefore, accordingly, right? You need semicolon or period, and you need a comma. All right? So that's the only observation here. But it means that, again, just because of that, then this is not a sentence anymore, just one sentence. This is a new sentence, right? So this is going to be with a different comma. All right, just because of that semi. So good. Plus, comma, or besides, comma, or also, comma, or additionally, comma, the same category. It is so beneficial that many areas of our life, right, will also be possibly affected by it. Good. To round off, I like to say it's advisable everybody to be in constant process of learning new information to achieve success. All right, so that's the only thing. I saw plus was the only detail. Everything else is great. So again, I don't know if you have comments or questions to well, first for this part, Matilde, let me know, please.
Okay, so in this plus, it could be also a period and start a new sentence, or a semicolon.
Yes,
Both ways
exactly.
is correct.
Okay. With both, exactly. Plus, it is going to be used like that. But if you use plus in a different way, you can say plus doing something else. But if you say doing something else, that's just a phrase, then you're not going to use a comma over there. It's like and, right? Or you're not even going to use a semicolon. Plus can be just with objects, right? You have to finish that plus your previous assignments, right? But if you say plus your previous assignments is not a complete idea, right? So you don't need punctuation to divide that. But here we're using plus as a transitional word. So if you use plus as a transitional word, you have to use semicolon or period. But if it's just for an object, you don't need to use punctuation. All right, it's the same with and, right? But with and, you need either a comma or you don't need any punctuation marks. And it depends again if after and you have a complete idea or just an object. And it happens also with but, right? It happens with but as well. But that's it. Yes. And again, if you get and you have in your mind all the fanboys, I don't know if you remember. Try to tell me the fanboys, please. What are the fanboys? Which ones do you remember?
Okay, for, nor.
Good.
Yeah, no, I remember the one that I usually don't use.
What could it be? This is actually, and actually the name is there to help you out, but I didn't tell you. But I will show you, right? So let's try it. So why they call fanboys? Because each one, right, stands for a specific word that you need. So fan, right, boys. So you said and, right? So you have and. What else did you say? We're going to complete this together.
For,
Yes.
nor.
Yes.
It was or.
Or yes. Or it's a fanboy. This is a very common one.
Yeah, because.
Close, actually, because remember, it doesn't use comma.
Yeah.
These fanboys are for commas.
B, so that's.
It is going to be, what do you use for contrast? That is very common. Or I don't know if you said perhaps that one I didn't hear. Repeat that word, please.
For the B?
Yes, for the B. Or any of those that you remember. You have B, you have Y, and you have S. B, you need something that means contrast. Y, you also need something that means contrast. Y. And S is something that means consequence.
So?
Yes, good. What could it be? Right, both are for contrast, and both are just 3 letters: B, and Y. And just to make you remember, you were using this word in a different way in your example. You were using this at the end, but it has to be at the beginning with a comma. And you use it a
yet.
lot.
Oh, yeah, I remember yet. Yeah.
Yes. Good. Yeah. So yet, remember, it can mean different things. Right here is contrast. And this is the same as yet. It has the same meaning in this context.
It's like blocked in my mind.
Don't worry. What could it be? Just one more try. All right. If you write it with a double consonant at the end, the meaning is different also.
With a double consonant.
All right. It is going to be this one. You're not going to forget, right? It's but.
But, yeah.
Okay.
And
so
it was the easy
again,
ones.
yes. So again, as you can see, these are not hard. So just memorize this list. And if you memorize all the fanboys, you are going to be sure when not to use comma. Okay, for example, if you see plus, but you say, but plus, yes, it's a small word. So it must work with a comma, right? But no, if it's not a fanboy, it's not going to work with a comma. Okay, you're going to need something else. Or either you don't need comma at all. For because, for example, right? When, while, because, since, you don't need comma over there. And those are subordinated conjunctions. It's another list that doesn't work with a comma. They only use comma when they are at the beginning, but not when they are in the middle, right? But again, this list is very important just to be sure, all right, of using these punctuation marks in a better way. But that's it. I don't know if you have final questions to be finishing today with this, Matilda. Let me know, please.
No. I think, yeah,
Good.
it's clear enough.
There you go. Yes, and also something. Today we're finishing, right? This, the A7. Tomorrow we're starting the new course. We have a new set of lessons that we are going to cover, but we're going to try to do it in the same way, in the sense that if I see that the lesson is too simple, or we know that, we're going to try to work other things. I don't know if you agree with this way of approaching that, or if you have suggestions for different things, but it's going to be the same. Now I'm going to share with you two surveys, okay? One that is for today's class and the other one that is for this course, all right? Your satisfaction for the entire course. Okay, so this is the first one. All right, and this is the second one. All right, so that's it. I hope you have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow. I'm going to assign the new set of assignments. Remember that you still have until tomorrow to finish everything, but tomorrow you're also going to start with 4 more units for the next course, all right?
All right, perfect.
Good. So good night and see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Good night. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.